Yeah, mate, nah, mate, that's just not rugby, mate. The referee out there don't know how to play rugby. We came here to play rugby against the Wallabies. We're building towards the future. We want to play, want to get out there, want to play, want a quick, fast game. But the referee out there, I don't know what he's doing, just absolutely rubbish. Just not rugby, mate. He doesn't know how to play rugby. That's the problem. We lost this game because the referee doesn't know how to play rugby. He should be giving himself uppercuts. That's what he should be doing. One of the worst performances I've ever seen. If it wasn't for the referee, we could have won this game. You guys, this is the worst interview ever. You guys got to give yourself uppercuts too. God, I'm so relieved that we beat Japan in a dominant fashion today. To be honest with you guys, going into this game, I was a little bit worried because the Wallabies made changes in the 4-pack, which I felt was the key to success against Japan. If you look at that July Test series, the Japanese were weak up front. And with all the changes shuffling around the 4-pack, I actually felt the Wallabies probably made too many changes and probably wasn't able to assert that dominance against the Japanese team. But the scoreboard aside, I was really, really impressed with the Wallabies' ability to adjust in this game. And that's something that I don't think I've seen in a consistent basis between game to game and during the game for a very long time under Joe Schmidt. So a number of things that the Wallabies adjusted, right? First of all, understanding the breakdown issue last game. So the Wallabies weren't contesting the breakdown and also only having one pillar around the rocks, leading to a lot of space, right? Like usually it's like a prop. You're having a prop defending, 5 yards on both sides of the rock is like 10 yards. And even for an inside center, that is a bit too much space to be feeling comfortable, let alone like a tight head prop. So Wallabies was really struggling around the rocks and leaving a lot of space around the rocks last game, and then allowing the Japanese to score a couple tries as a result of that. This game, they clearly fixed that, much tighter around the rocks and being more patient. They have Lonergan constantly swooping behind the rocks to kind of cover those spaces, which I thought was really, really, really well done. Number two, not only that they were able to adjust defensively, but offensively they tightened up as well. They have abused that physical dominance, especially some of the big boys, like Tupou. People, he's probably been told that his size really, can line up with some of the smaller Japanese guys and just overpower them. And it did exactly that. A number of the big guys did exactly that this game, and it just shows me once again the Wallabies looked at what they did last week and didn't feel like they were asserting that dominance enough, and came out of this game and asserted that dominance. The things that Japanese did really well last week was the kicking game, and the Wallabies managed that, I feel, a lot better as well. I'm really able to close down that space. And that's in terms of strategically between game and game, that was a pretty big improvement in my part, which I really, really like that. Now, the little things during the game the Wallabies adjusted is also very, very impressive in my opinion. Something that I've almost never seen from the Wallabies is almost like, here's the playbook and just follow it and don't question it. The Wallabies actually had this thing where they were doing this. They were pretty adventurous in terms of trying to run with the ball. And then when they get to the 50-meter mark, it's almost like a switch has gone off. Oh, time to do the box kick. And they do these box kicks that are just like, pointless. So if you watch this series play, the Wallabies done a really good job running out of there on 22, right? Like, bang, another nice, a couple quick balls, another good run from Isaac Henry. And then you get, a nice another run for Salaka Lotto, getting pretty close to the 50-meter mark. And it's like, yep, let's do the box kick, right? You've already done it's like, why, right? Like, why did you do this, right? And this was clearly not working for the Wallabies, right? If you watch this one, I think this one went straight out. This was clear. That was, even if we were to do these box kicks, it was a bit too shallow. You probably wanted to go, a bit deeper than that. And again, some people were talking. I think that I first heard from the Springbok commentary is that a lot of teams nowadays, they run back to take these balls instead of people running into it from behind. They have people running back to catch the ball, and because their backs, because they're running back and they're the ball receiver, your own, the attacking ball runner is behind them. So the attacking ball chaser is being blocked by the receiver of the ball, the guy running back to catch the ball. So you kind of see it a little bit here. The guy that was supposed to catch the ball, he kind of just blocks it and prevents Harry Potter from catching instead of actually catching the ball himself. So a lot of these little distraction, little things that the teams are doing to stop this box kicking style is making it less and less effective. And the Wallabies realizing this mistake, I was so frustrated watching this. I was like, if you keep doing this, we're going to lose the game. Wallabies realizing this and stopped it for the remainder of the game. After about 20 minutes, they clearly realized this wasn't working and stopped it and started just building more physically up front and having a much longer kicks like the Japanese were doing. Japanese were pretty happy to punt the ball down the field and just make you do a goal line drop out. And they were happy to run back at you from the halfway point from receiving the goal line drop out. So that's kind of the Japanese strategy. And we kind of adjusted to that after these box kicking didn't work. And another thing I thought, I haven't got a video here, is that the first try the Japanese scored was a charge down from one of the Aussie guys. I can't remember his name. He was someone charged down because Lonergan box kicker wasn't sharp enough with his box kick. So it wasn't enough coverage, I guess, for there wasn't enough, like what do you call it? The caterpillar wasn't long enough maybe for the box kick. So as a result, the Lonergan got charged down and ended up in the Japanese try. So the next box kick, they actually moved the caterpillar at an angle away from the blocker. So the caterpillar was actually at an angle away from the guy that was going for the block. So Lonergan was actually kicking from, instead of just directly further back, was kicking from like a sideways further back from the kicker. And then I thought I was really smart as well, just to create that little bit of distance to make that charge a little bit more difficult for as well. And he's protected from the guy on the left because the caterpillar is kind of like blocking the guy that's on the left hand side, and the guy that charged him down last time on the right hand side is further away because of the angled sideways of the caterpillar. So I thought that was pretty smart adjustment there as well. So a number of little things the Wallabies did really well on the fly to adjust to something I haven't seen before. So it's always just been like, just follow the playbook and not questioning it. Another thing I thought the Wallabies did really well is the scrummaging. And last week we talked about the pulling from a number of from the All Blacks team. From the Springboks. I think it was Springboks, but it was a couple. I think it was the Wallabies last week as well. They got done for like the little pulling from the loose air side to collapse the scrum when they're overextended. Little things like that. If you can get away with it with the referee, teams will start doing it, right? And I think the Wallabies did something really smart here. If you watch this play here, so the first scrum, you can see that I think that Angus Bell is pulling. I think that's a pull from Angus. But the referee didn't call. So, and then the referee goes to the other side, and Angus is like, okay, he didn't call that. And the referee thought it was the issue from the other side. So had a repack, and Angus Bell just literally yanked him down. And I thought this was really clever because he realized the referee wasn't going to penalize that. And because now he's on the other side, he's not going to see this properly. And I thought this, again, there's just little things like clearly been studied beforehand. You can see here, ready for the feed? You can see that clearly yanked him a little bit and got a penalty there. So I thought that was just like little things like that. Just really, really well done. And this here as well, the scrum from the Japanese, this was the lightest who just came off the field, the debutant 1000, Wallaby 1000. And now you can see the Japanese scrum here is not set up properly. Like he's already like, his back is bent and his hip is kind of really like not straightened out. Like his hip is kind of like hunched over. As a result, his knees already touching the ground. Like on the engagement, his knees already gone down. And as a result, his teammates are actually kind of like the flanker here is kind of pushing him down as well. It's not doing him any favor here. Like Cornelson, I think that is pushing. So he's actually collapsed on his own scrum here, Cornelson. So yeah, like, and that is, and then the Wallabies, yeah, he's just kind of just given up his foot there. And then the Wallaby just walked through for a try here, because there could be a obstruction here, but because I think there's no one here to actually defend this, even though he ran his own player, it's actually in place to make the tackle. So that's not, even though that could be an obstruction if someone was there, but no one was there, so the referee just said that's a try. And so yeah, again, I'm pretty happy with the scrum. I'm pretty happy with how the scrum worked out, especially the little mind games, the little adjustment that team was making on the fly to problem solve these problems is something that I thought was really lacking for the Wallabies for a very long time, and I think this is a big step forward for the team. For the Japanese, it's for the Japanese. I thought the Japanese was, last week they had 6-2 on the bench, and maybe they felt too confident in terms of not seeing that the dominance up front for the Wallabies. Coming to this game, they adjusted the bench back to 5-3, and as a result, when the Wallabies bench came on, there was just too much power. There was too much strength, too much power. too much, too much size and just brute force that the Japanese reserves wasn't able to handle. Yeah, and as a result of this, I do think that Eddie Jones really, maybe the mind games really overplayed a little bit to changing that 6-2 back to the 5-3, and it really didn't add any value when you had an extra center on the field. I think Dylan Riley was doing fine. It was nothing, there was nothing like specifically advantageous having an extra center on the bench. And I think in this game, especially how dominant the Wallabies forwards are, they probably have an extra forward on the bench who would have played much better in terms of dividend as well. And overall, I thought the kicking game also adjusted as well for Japan, much longer kicking and much, deeper kicking, and just trying to force the Wallabies to goal and dropouts. But still, I thought, the pressure from this kicking is just too low. It's almost like, yeah, we're happy to just let you kick it back to us, but we're just not going to pressure it as well. So, I'm not 100% sure if this is the best way to go about it. But it's clearly something that Eddie Jones has been pretty happy to contend with. Outside of that, the breakdown was much better as well from the Wallabies of break and commitments. There was so many good breakdown turnovers. In previous weeks, there seems to be an emphasis in Japanese team to hit that breakdown, to secure their own breakdown. But, despite that emphasis, this game was clearly lacking, especially in the second half. The fatigue has always been a bit of an issue for the Japanese team. They always kind of drops off, in the mid second half because the fatigue and the reserve couldn't quite keep up the same level as the starting team. And they, the breakdown just completely fell apart with, 4 or 5 turnovers for the Wallabies again and again and again. And yeah, it's one of those things where, you're taught to go down as a ball carrier to go down, but you kind of, need to stay on your feet if your own team isn't in place to get the turn to secure the ball. So maybe that's something that the Japanese players are getting too used to, just to go hitting the ground and try to release the ball before his teammates are even in position to clean the ball. So sometimes you have to stay on your feet a little bit longer to give yourselves a bit more time to your teammates a bit more time to get in place. And I think that's probably what the biggest issue the Japanese was having. Just the breakdown and getting the getting the ball handed over to the Wallabies. The last thing I want to talk about is it's nothing really to do with the rugby. It's to do with Australian, TV broadcasting. Is it just me? This game is not broadcasted on TV. Maybe I'm wrong, but I do think that it's a massive loss opportunity, right? Especially a game played in North Queensland. You don't have that many turnouts. The money that you're gonna make, like, no one's gonna sign up to Stan Sport to watch this game. But if put it on free TV, you're gonna get extra people. You're gonna get plenty of people wanting to see this, right? But no one's gonna pay extra for this. And for some reason, if this was only on Stan Sport, I'll watch it on Stan, so it doesn't. I don't know. But based on what I've heard, this might just be only on Stan Sport. I know last week was only on Stan Sport, but that was already quite stupid. But this game playing at home, yeah, I didn't think that was. I think that's a really poor financial decision there from Australian rugby. Anyway, let's move on to the match stats of the game. 701 run meters to the 462 run meters for Japan. That is some huge run meters for both teams. Actually, 462 is already pretty high for a test match. 710. That is like All Blacks numbers, like crazy run meters. Let's say 51 defenders beaten to only 14 to Japan. 14 turnovers considered though for the Wallabies, 6 for the Japanese. 127 tackles made, 14 missed tackles. 167 tackles made for the Japanese. 51 missed tackles. Boy, that is horrendous. That is absolutely horrendous. Just the size and power for the Wallabies is just way too much. 25 kicks in play and 19 for Japan. Not too much either. 2 missed conversions as well. 100% conversion, which is really good. Clearly been working on that. Kick meter from hands, 516 for the Wallabies. 653 for Japan. Like, a lot of this long range kick just wasn't pressured. Just, punt it down deep into your field and see what you're going to do. That sort of thing. Oh, the line out was really good for the Wallabies as well. 16 line outs, no loss. 5 line outs of Japan, 3 loss. Pretty much all 3 of them were disrupted or poached by the Wallabies. 3 scrums, no loss of the Wallabies. 4 scrums, no loss for Japan. But it was definitely a scrum penalty for the Wallabies at the end there. 5 penalties considered for the Wallabies overall. Really nice. But then, weren't under that much pressure. So might not be, don't want to be too early on that on that, but this is a very, very good performance. I wanted to see this continue against like a tougher team, against Argentina. That's coming up. 13 for Japan, which is a little bit high nowadays. Single digit is what teams aim for. 1 yellow card for repeated penalties against the Japanese at the breakdown in front of the goal lines. So yeah, let's do a quick point summary of the game. So 6 minutes into the game, the Wallabies, had some pretty nice run in midfield. The ball went wide to Jorgensen. He ran down 1 meter short, and then Nasser picked out the ball and quickly docked the ball down for the try. 7 points to 0. 11 minutes into the game, the Japan was kicking in deep, and then Lonergan tried to do a little box kick from right in front of his try line. Got charged down by Hopkins, I think is the name. Yeah, Hawkins. Hawkins was the name, and then he charged it down, a former Queensland Reds player, and he grounds the ball for the try. 5 points to 7. 17 minutes into the game, Wallabies went for the line out, went to a fake dummy maul. The ball crashed midfield. Just a few crash balls later, Tupou pumped over for his first try. 14 points to 5. 25 minutes in the game, there was a penalty against the Wallabies for kicking the ball out of the rack, just in front of the goal line, and the Wallabies were kind of distracted about potentially a high shot on Angus Bell. The Japanese halfback Saito just taking a quick tap and running for the try. Not everybody was taking a nap. 14 points to 12. 28 minutes of the game, the Wallabies looked like they scored a nice, short ball. There was 2 options from Hunter Paisami. He had Henry coming in short, and then he had Carter Gordon looping around, and Dylan Riley was marking Henry, and he thought the ball was going to go to Carter Gordon. Was going to be a backdoor play, but he just went for the short ball, which was really, really beautifully executed, and Henry ran through. Hunter Paisami saw the drift, but it was just slightly forward. Yeah, but that was such a nice play, so no try. 32 minutes in the game, Japan actually rolling some momentum, actually getting ahead. So they had just a lot of nice running rugby against the Wallabies, and the defense wasn't holding up at this point. The Wallabies just going backwards and not able to do enough to slow down the breakdown, and eventually the ball went to Dylan Riley, about 5 meters short. He ran up, bumped over Tazano, dunked the ball in one-handed for the try. 14 points to 17. Just before half-time, the Wallabies get themselves back in the scoreboard. They had a penalty, could have kicked a 3, and went halved up for a draw, right? Thank God they didn't do that. They went for the line out. I just had, just crash balls, and eventually Tupou running full speed for a pop pass from Lonergan, punched him for the try. 21 points to 17 at halftime. Second half, Wallabies came out with more intent. 10 minutes into the second half, went for it was a line out near the Japanese line. Just bunch of crash balls. The new guy that came onto the field, Denitis, Massimo Denitis, whatever his name is, helped Angus Bell from behind, pushed him over for the try. 27 points to 17. 57 minutes in the game. There was a nice run for Jeremy Williams. Offload to Carter Gordon, who ran through just 1 or 2 meters short. A crash ball from Denitis. Massimo Denitis, the Wallaby 1000, went over to try. 35 points to 17. Everybody's cheering. Looked like he boggled it, but almost knocked the ball on. But the referee said, good enough. And we're all pretty happy to see that was a try. 71 minutes. The Wallabies has more opportunities to attack. There was a knock on in Japanese 22 for a scrum that we just saw there. And the Wallabies scrum, the march through for the try. 42 points to 17. 75 minutes into the game, the Wallabies really starting to ramp up now. There was a nice run from Charlie Cale from the left-hand side. More pressure building the forwards. Tate McDermott got pretty close. More crash ball, and Harry Wilson bumped over for the try. And then there was a yellow card against Japan for repeated penalties. 49 points to 17. And finally, 80th minute, it was time is up. Penalty right in front of the goalpost. Could have kicked 3. I guess they didn't. So Wallabies went for the tap. Crash ball, and then eventually Paenga Amosa bumped over for the try. 56 points to 17. Really well done. Nice and strong finish. And we'd like to see that continue to build for the Wallabies. And most importantly, continue to problem solve and, make those right decisions on the field. I think that was a really, really nice step forward for the Wallabies. And, thanks for watching. Have a good day. I'll see you guys tomorrow for the All Blacks versus Bulls game. Cheers.